Hi, in today's video I'm going to be taking a look at Firefox 100's website appearance settings, which allow you to set a dark theme for sites that support it. So if I switch across to Chromium, I'll show you what I mean. Normally when you come to Google, you get hit with this blinding white page. And you may have noticed there's a setting up here that allows you to select the appearance. And it's got three settings: light theme, dark theme, and device default. Now, even if you've got a dark theme set on your computer, on Linux, what you'll find is that it still shows you this white page. So if I click dark theme, you'll see it switches to a dark theme. If I switch back to device default, it goes back to white. What I'm going to show you in Firefox is the website appearance settings and how you can change that blinding white page to a lovely black page on Google, on YouTube, on DuckDuckGo, and also on GitHub. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all the settings about this and why you actually want to use the Snap version of Firefox instead of the Flatpak version, because try as I might, I can't get the Flatpak version to support this. Also, I've come across a couple of crippling bugs that really make you not want to use the Flatpak version, and that is magnet links don't work, the dark theme doesn't work, and also the Flatpak version of Firefox 100 breaks local websites. And what I'll do is I'm going to go through all the settings and show you how we can set this up. The other thing that I'm going to show you is Firefox Snap. Also, if I open the files directory here, the Firefox Snap version also creates this firefox.temp folder in your downloads directory. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to completely hide the Firefox temp folder in the terminal so that when you run ls it doesn't show up. Also, I'm going to show you how to exclude it from ZSH auto-completion so that when you're in the downloads folder and you're running MPV, you press MPV tab, play a video, it's not going to prompt you to play the Firefox temp folder. And I'm also going to show you how to hide the Firefox temp folder in Emacs Diode, which is a file browser for Emacs. So what I'm going to do is go through all the settings and how you get this set up, and also the settings that actually break this. So first of all, what we're going to do is, if I come across to the Emacs, I'm going to go into my config GTK3 directory, which just increase the file size here. And what you'll see here is I've got a file called settings.ini. Increase the file size here. And in this file, what we can do is actually set the theme that is used by GTK, and we can also set it to prefer dark themes. So there are a couple of ways to change the appearance of GNOME applications. You've got the settings in GNOME, you've got GNOME tweaks, but you don't actually want to use those, because what I found is if you use those, it buggers things up and stops this working. So this is the way I recommend setting this. So first of all, what we do is we set our theme. So we're setting the theme to Yaru Blue Dark, and what that does is, if I just open the files here, what you can see is there's two things. We set the theme and we're setting the icon theme. You can see I've got these nice blue highlights here. So GNOME settings has got a appearance section where you can actually pick the accent colors. However, this only works in GNOME sessions, and since I'm running Xmonad, that doesn't have any effect. So that's why what we need to do is two things. We need to set the theme name to Yaru Blue Dark. We also need to set the icon theme name to Yaru Blue Dark, and that sets the color of the folders. The next thing we need to do is set GTK application preferred dark theme equals true. So those are the three things that we're doing in our settings.ini in config GTK-3.0 settings.ini. So that's the first step, is actually setting the theme globally. Now if I come back across to Firefox and come into my settings, what you'll see here is we've got several choices. Now the first thing we need to do is you come across and go to Add-Ons and Themes, and what you'll see here is you've got several options. You can set dark. What we're doing is we're setting the system theme auto. So make sure that this is selected. You'll see all the other ones listed here will have enabled, and this will be enabled. So that's the first thing we need to do after setting our settings ini. Come into Firefox and set the Firefox theme to follow the system theme. So you can see here the borders up here. These are the Yaru dark blue theme borders for the borders of the window. So that's the first step. We don't need to come into settings, and what we've got is these several options. And what we're going to do is we're going to set this to Firefox theme. So what it does is, you might think it'd be system theme, but I found Firefox theme actually works. And this is quite easy to break, I found, with some of the settings in Firefox. And so I got all this working perfect. I changed something and broke it completely, and then spent several hours trying to figure out what I'd done. So we set the theme, and we set the website appearance to Firefox theme here. And so what that does is that then uses the system auto theme here. Okay, so that's the first thing. So what I'm going to do is also go through the setting that I found that actually breaks this. So in privacy and security, if I come down, what I've got is I've got strict tracking enabled, delete cookies when Firefox is closed. This setting here, history, Firefox will remember history. Leave it set like that, because what I found is if you change this, it breaks it. And what happens is there isn't a way to fix it without completely deleting the Firefox, the Mozilla directory and starting again. So actually changing the history to anything apart from remember history breaks this dark theme setting. And I'm guessing the reason for that is because it has to sort of interact with the website and then sort of remember the settings, and if you change this, it breaks it. So that's the one thing that I found that actually breaks this. So what I'm going to do is actually close all these out and just open it up again and show you what happens when I search Google. If I come to Google, what you'll find is it will actually start with a white page, and you think, okay, you just said it's going to fix the dark theme issue. If I do a refresh now, it goes to dark theme. So that's the first thing with Google. For some reason, when you first go to the page, it doesn't automatically go to dark theme. You've got to do a refresh, and then it fixes the issue. So that's the first gotcha. Next, what we'll do is we'll go to YouTube, and what you'll see here is I'm also using Firefox multi-containers, which allow you to separate, store sort of the settings for each site in a separate container, so the cookies from YouTube or Google can't interact. And so this also works with the Firefox multi-containers. So if I come across to YouTube now, okay, you'll see we've got a dark theme. Now the other thing I want to show you, you see my extensions up here. We've got uBlock Origin. If you don't know what uBlock Origin is, you need to install it because it will block all the adverts on YouTube. So if I click the little button here, you'll see that it has also styled the extension as well, which is nice. So you can see here we've got lovely dark mode. The other site that supports automatic dark mode is DuckDuckGo. So if I come across to DuckDuckGo, here we go, automatic dark theme. Now the other one that's really nice is GitHub. So I come across to GitHub, come across my GitHub page, and it loads eventually. There we go. Dark theme. How much nicer is that than the standard white theme you get with GitHub? It's much nicer and easier on the eyes. So those are a couple of the sites that support automatic dark mode. We've got Google, going to be using, got YouTube, DuckDuckGo, and GitHub. And now, of course, you can create, in Firefox, you can have user-defined style sheets, and you could individually style all of these sites, but honestly, that's a real pain because, you know, for instance, you've got to go through and you've got to literally style all the elements on the page, and chances are you're going to break something, and it's a real pain. So having this automatic dark mode is a real bonus. So what I'm going to do is actually go through some of the settings where this is actually stored, and show you how this is configured. So if I come across to here, so what I'm going to do is come to my snap. This is my snap folder in my home directory. So if I come into Firefox, okay, I've hidden all these files, but let me just go across into Snap. I'd hidden them from view in Emacs. So I'm going to come across into here, into Firefox. Okay, I think it's in, is it in common? Okay, so this is the location of the .mozilla directory in the Snap folder. So we've got Snap, Firefox, common.mozilla, Firefox, and in here what you'll see is your profile, which will end with a .default. So that's where your .mozilla directory is stored, and there's also current. Okay, I think it might be big. Yeah. So what you'll see here is in Snap Firefox current.config, we have these GTK3 folder. Now, if I have a look in that GTK3 directory, what you'll see is these are just symbolic links to the config GTK settings file I showed you earlier. So what Snap packages do is they create a symbolic link to your GTK settings so that it can automatically use the theme that you provided. So that's where the GTK symbolic link is in the Firefox Snap, which points to the settings file. Okay, so that's where everything is, and let me just show you where the okay. So this is the other thing, the .mozilla directory. What I also do is you can launch Firefox from the command line, like Firefox, like that. Now, what happens? What I've found happens is when you launch Firefox like this on the command line for a Snap application, what it can do is actually create a .mozilla directory in your home folder with a completely new profile, which ignores all your settings, which is really annoying. So what I recommend doing, if you run Firefox from the command line or a script or anything, and you come across this issue where it's creating this .mozilla directory in your home folder, is what you do is you create a symbolic link from .mozilla to home your username snap firefox common.mozilla. Okay, the way you would do that is by running ln-s, the source, and then the destination. So we'd run snap firefox.common.mozilla, So this is how we create the symbolic link from the snap Firefox Mozilla directory to .mozilla in your home. Now you might not want this .mozilla directory in your home cluttering things up, but it's just something I wanted to mention because it's an issue that can arise if you run Firefox from the command line. It will sometimes create this directory and muck things up. So by creating this symbolic link, what it will do is it will then automatically use the settings in your .mozilla file in your snap directory instead of creating a new profile and stuff. So that's one thing I wanted to mention. Now what I'm going to do is come across into my downloads folder, and if I run ls, you see there's no Firefox temp directory. So if I open the file manager here and I come to downloads, you'll see we've got a firefox.temp directory here. Yeah. But it's hidden in the terminal, so running ls doesn't show it. If I run ls-a, it now shows the firefox.temp directory. I'm going to show you how we can create, we can exclude that file. So let me just search for Firefox. Okay. So what we're doing here, come up, is we're creating an alias. We're creating an alias called ls, and we're setting it to ls-hide equals firefox.temp. Now there's two options you can use with ls to hide files. There is ignore and there's hide. I'm going to explain the difference between them. Ignore will ignore the file completely and you won't be able to view it at all, even if you run ls-a. Hide hides the file or the folder except when you run ls-a. So that's the reason I'm using the dash hide option, is so that I can still show it with the -a flag to the ls command. So we put this in our zsh config or your bash rc. Then we source the file, and then once we've done that, as you can see, no more Firefox temp directory when we run the ls command. Now the other issue is typically you're going to download stuff into your downloads folder because that's what it's for. So you may download a load of videos into your downloads folder, and then you go and use MPV to play the videos. And typically, you know, you have like videos like video 1, 2, 3, 4. And what you can do is you can press the tab key to cycle through them. What normally happens is when you do that, it auto completes and shows you the firefox.temp directory, which obviously you don't want to play with MPV. So now if I press the tab key here, you see that it's not prompting me for that firefox.temp file. Okay, so again, ls, no file, MPV, I run tab, and it's not prompting me with the autocomplete to play that Firefox temp file. Also, if I run, say, like rm-f, okay, it is prompting me to delete that, but so the completion there for deletion I hadn't set, but for actually things like MPV, other command line tools, okay, it's showing it for NSKIV. So there are some things where it may also complete, but the main one I was interested in is fixing it for MPV so that when I press tab, it doesn't auto-complete. So let's switch back across to our ZSH file. And what we've got here is a Z-style completion with ignored patterns. And what we've basically got here is patterns that we ignore, like backup files, files labeled .old or something. And what we simply do here is in single quotes put firefox.temp, and that excludes the Firefox temp file from auto-completions for MPV. Now what I'm going to do is, if I just switch back to the terminal here, what I also want to show you is when running the ls command, I showed you in the downloads folder, when I run ls, it hides the Firefox temp directory. If I also specify the full path to the downloads directory, so I'm not in the downloads directory, and I list it, it still excludes the Firefox temp directory there. So this works to completely hide it from the ls command, which is really useful. And also you can see there the auto completion is actually showing up when I'm not in the downloads folder for MPV, yeah. But if I'm actually in the downloads folder and I press tab, it excludes it. So there may be a way to get that sorted, but generally speaking, you're going to be in the downloads folder, you know, playing stuff with MPV, tab, and you don't want the Firefox folder to show up. So that's how we exclude the Firefox folder from the ZSH completions. Now what I'm going to do is come across to Diode. So this is Emacs Diode, the file manager. And what I've also done is excluded the Firefox temp directory from Diode as well, because I sometimes use Diode to open files, because it's really nice to actually be able to, you know, open files with Diode, delete them, that sort of thing. And I wanted to exclude the Firefox temp from this view as well. And what I've got is a keyboard shortcut, which is Control-X Meta 0. So if I come across here and go Control-X Meta 0, this toggles hidden files. And if I come across into the downloads folder, if I run Control-X Meta 0, you'll see that it toggles hiding the Firefox temp folder. So the way we do that in Emacs is config.emacs init.el. We've got this section here. So what we've got here is this little hook, required diode x, setq diode emit files, concat diode emit files. In this section here, this first section, this hides the dot files, and then after that we've got this pipe, and then firefox.temp. So this is how we hide the Firefox temp folder in Emacs as well. So we've got these 4 lines: require diode x, setq diode emit files, concat emit diode files with the Firefox temp, and then finally add hook diode mode hook lambda diode emit mode 1. And that's what hides the Firefox temp folder. So those are some of the settings that I wanted to come across and show you, and some of the things that actually sort of break this. So what can happen is you go through, you get all this set up, and it's working, and you change something and it breaks. And unfortunately, the only way that I've actually found to get it working again is to completely remove the .mozilla directory and restart, start the browser up afresh and go through all the settings. So what I'm going to do is just go through all the settings that I've got enabled in Firefox and show you what actually sort of breaks stuff. So what we've got here is the General tab. Firefox is set as your current default browser. I've got multi-containers enabled, as I said here. You can see these have all got different colors for the tabs. So what that does is it sort of creates a container for all the cookies and settings for those sites, so they can't interact with other things. So For example, if you're in a Google search, and you search for a video, it will open it in a new YouTube container tab, and they sort of supposedly can't sort of interact and send data between each other. So again, settings we need to do, the Firefox theme here, extension and themes, make sure we've got the system theme enabled. And these are just standard things. I've got DRM enabled, use recommended performance. You want to uncheck these two down here, recommend extension as you browse and recommend features as you browse. Okay, then we've got the home. And what we can do is we can set the home page to a blank page and new tabs to a blank page. Again, the reason I'm going through all these settings is to show you things that won't break this setup, and some of the things that I found that will break it. So on the home page here, what we can do is we set these to blank pages, and we uncheck all these options here, because basically what that does is show you stuff recommended by Pocket. And also what I'll do just now is show you how to disable Pocket. So about config, search for Pocket, Pocket, and what you'll see here, extension Pocket enabled, double click it. By default it's going to be set to true, you double click it and set it to false. And what that does is that removes the save to Pocket bit of text that comes up when you right click, and it also disables the save to Pocket sort of thing that comes up in the URL bar. So these are some of the settings for stuff. And again, we got the search bar here. I generally keep it to a single one, because what I found is otherwise, if you set it to this one, what happens is by default, what will happen is it will put your cursor in the URL bar, and then you've got a tab into the second bar to actually start typing, which is really irritating. So that's why I set it to a single bar. We can set our default search engine here, provide search suggestions, and I remove a lot of the built-in search engines like Bing, Wikipedia, that sort of thing. And I also uncheck these three options here so that I don't get prompted for other stuff. I just get the search results, because I don't use bookmarks. I keep my bookmarks in an org file. So this is the search page. Again, we go to the privacy and security, and what we got here is options that deal with how Firefox blocks stuff. And you've got several options: standard, strict, or custom. And if you're using Firefox multi-containers, which I'd recommend having a look at because they're really nice, let me just come across here. What you can do is you can create different containers for different websites. So if I come across manage containers and go into Google, you give it a name, a color, you can give it an icon. And what you do is you say limit to designated sites. And then you click this manage sites thing here. You can see it's just google.com. You can also set this to use a Mozilla VPN, or actually different proxy settings per container. And when you basically type in Google, when you search Google, what you'll find is you go to this little button here and you say always open site, and you select the container, and it's going to come to give you a little pop-up window saying, do you want to always use this container for these links? And you select the checkbox and click OK, and then it's going to always open Google in its own container. So that's how you can sort of get a bit of privacy back and stop sites sending data to each other. And so you want the strict setting for the Firefox container. And again, this doesn't impact the dark theme at all. So that's safe to use. There's some issues with do not track, where if you enable it, it actually makes you more easy to track, because a lot of people don't enable it, so it kind of singles you out. So what we've got here is delete cookies and site data when Firefox is closed. That's fine to have set. Doesn't impact the dark theme. It's not going to break it. I typically uncheck all of these logins and stuff. Now this is the important one again, the history. Keep it set to Firefox will remember history, because what I found is I got all this set up, got it all working, happy as Larry, and I was going through just, blindly clicking, oh yeah, I usually set this. I changed this and it broke, and I couldn't get the dark theme to work again, faffing about for hours. And what I did was basically deleted the Mozilla directory, set the browser up from scratch again, and just went through all the options one by one until I broke stuff. I found this is the one that actually breaks things. And I couldn't find any way, apart from deleting the Mozilla directory, to actually get it to work again. So don't touch this one, because I found it will break stuff. The other thing that I found that actually breaks things is using a custom user.js file in your .mozilla directory, or custom style sheets also seem to cause it to break the dark theme. So that was the other thing that I found that causes an issue. Custom user.js files or user style sheets. It may be okay, it may just be one of those glitches that came up for me, but it's something I thought I'd mention. I also uncheck all of this stuff down here, and also Firefox collection and use. You can uncheck all of these. These actually use Google to actually check URLs. So what typically happens when you've got these settings enabled is it uses a Google sort of malware, sort of dangerous URL detection thing, and it sends your URLs to Google to actually check if the URL's safe. So if you're more privacy concerned, you may want to uncheck these, but it's probably good to have enabled, because you don't want to hit dodgy sites. The other thing I've got down here enabled is enable HTTPS only mode in all windows. And that's basically like HTTPS everywhere, the old EFF add-on that's now been deprecated, I believe, because most browsers have got this enabled. So those are all the settings that you can go through and basically enable that won't break this. So again, if I come across to Chromium here, and if I just search for BBC, you can see we've got the white theme here. Even if I go into my settings, see this is all white. For some reason, Chromium decided to throw a wobbly and go all white on me. So what you can do is you can go use GTK. It still won't have a dark theme. And what you have to do to actually customize the appearance in Chrome is, if you open a new tab, you come across to customize Chromium, go to color and theme, you can select, say, like black here. So you open a new tab, customize Chromium, color and theme, black. Even if you do that, it still doesn't pick up the dark theme that you've used in Chromium. Don't know why. So basically you have to sort of come across and go dark theme like that in Chromium. But anyway, this was about Firefox and how we can get this all to work, how we can have automatic dark themes on all these supported sites, instead of coming to the site and have to constantly click settings, dark. That's very annoying to have to do every time you open a browser and log into, want to search for something. So having this set up automatically is much nicer. Why do these lighters never work? Hang on. Okay, so recap. What we needed to do was, first of all, we got our config directory. We got our GTK3 folder here, and Firefox uses GTK3 and not GTK4, but as good measure, what I've also done is created a GTK-4.0 directory, and in there I've copied the same settings for GTK4 applications, just in case I've got any. So we've got the GTK3 and GTK4 folders, and the bookmarks here are XDG bookmarks, which actually remove some of the things that came up in the sidebar. I think I did a video on that a while ago. But this is, let me go back to the settings here. These are the, sorry about that. Right, so these are the settings. We've got the GTK theme name, which we're going to be using Yaru Blue Dark, and then the icon theme name, and then GTK application preferred dark theme true. So those 3 lines, and what that does is the icons will give you this nice blue accent color on the folders in the file manager. And again, if you're using gnome, a gnome session, you've got a color picker in the settings, but that only works if you're running gnome. So if you're running a window manager, whether it's i3, DWM, Xmonad, BSPWM, whatever, that setting won't be applied outside of gnome. So you'll be stuck with the boring standard, colors. So that's how you basically fix that issue. And if I open another GTK application here, Meld, you'll see we've got the nice Yaru dark blue theme here. So that's the first thing we needed to do, set the settings. Again, in Firefox, come across to Add-Ons and Themes, make sure System Theme Auto is enabled. Then we come back across the settings. And in the general, we set this to Website Appearance Firefox Theme. And again, what that does is that then uses the theme that you specified in Firefox. And I have found, I'm not going to change these because I don't want to bugger things up as I've got it working, but sometimes you can change the system theme or dark theme and get it to work as well. But really, once you get this set up and working, I'd recommend not playing around with stuff, because I found it is quite easy to actually break and go through and you play with all your settings and everything. You can't get it to work again, and the only way to get it to work again is by deleting the Mozilla directory and restarting Firefox with a new profile, and that's a bit of a pain. So once you've got it working, leave it as is, because I have found that there are certain settings or things you can do that can actually break this. So those are the 2 things we need to do in Firefox, and as you'll see, this will also apply the dark mode to the extensions as well. So again, if I open up Firefox, what I'm going to do is actually show you the Flatpak version of Firefox as well. So again, remember, if I search here, it's going to come up white, right? Boo hiss. Press Control L to select the search bar up here. Just press return. Bang, we got a dark mode. Okay, so that's the snap version. And again, let me just go through the settings for hiding the Firefox temp directory in the ls and the zsh and emacs. So in our ZSHRC file. Firefox. So this was how we remove Firefox from ZSH completions. So again, this was the Z-style completions. And we simply have firefox.temp in single quotes, and that basically hides Firefox temp directory from ZSH completions when we're in the downloads folder. But it doesn't seem to apply. I mean, maybe if I put a asterisk wildcard or something before that, it might exclude it from listings when I'm not in the directory. So the MPV, it's not prompting me for stuff there, but if I come out and go MPV downloads, it will prompt me for the Firefox temp directory. But you know, really, you're going to be in the downloads folder anyway, so it's not too much of an issue. Okay, so that's how we hide the Firefox temp folder from ZSH completions for MPV, so that we don't accidentally play the Firefox temp directory. How many sliders? Okay, and then the next one was how we hide it from the list command. So for the list command, what we do is we have alias ls equals ls space dash dash hide equals firefox.temp. And again, there's two options with the ls command to hide stuff. There's ignore and there's hide. The difference between the two is ignore hides the folder completely and you can't list it at all, but the hide option allows you to show it with the -a flag. So if I run ls, it's hidden. If I run ls-a, it's visible. And that's the way I think it's probably better. You know, just because you might want to show it for some reason. Of course, you could just CD into it, but that's the option that I've sort of chosen. But you could use the ignore option if you want. So that's how we hide it, the ZSH completions and the ls command. And then for emacs, init el, what we got here again is required dired x, and you'll need that installed obviously. Set to dired emit files, concat dired emit files. We hide dot files here and the Firefox temp directory, and we've got the add hook. And basically the way we toggle this is with Control X meta O. Let me just double check that. So if I come to my home directory, Control X meta O, yeah, that toggles showing and hiding hidden files. So I've got dot files hidden by default in dired. And if I come into the downloads folder, you'll see that that Firefox temp directory is excluded from the view, and I can toggle it back on and off. However, if you're using the mini buffer, if I go to mini buffer downloads, you'll see that it's actually prompting me for the Firefox, shows the Firefox temp directory here. But if I go into the directory, that hook then kicks in, and then it hides the directory. So there's two behaviors here. When you're actually in the directory in dired, it's going to hide it, and you can toggle it on and off. But if you actually use the find command, find file, it will actually show it because the hook doesn't kick in. So that's the Firefox side of things, and the Emacs side of things rather. Now what I'm going to do is actually show you Flatpak. So I'm going to show you some issues, 3 issues that for me are deal breakers with the Flatpak version. So what you see here is I've actually got 3 desktop entries, and the first one here is my Snap version of Firefox. The second is a Flatpak version, and the third is a custom desktop file that I use to launch Firefox in a OpenVPN namespace, which I covered in a previous video, which I won't go into now. But what I'm going to do now is open the Flatpak version of Firefox, and I've got exactly the same settings set up in this. And the other thing that I've done is I've installed the Flatpak version of the Yaru theme. Now, if I come through to the settings, what you see here is I got to set this to Firefox theme or system theme. Okay, and I've got the system theme enabled auto. Come back to the settings, and I come to, say, search for BBC. You see we've got the white theme. I do a refresh, no dice. If I change this to Firefox theme, refresh, still no dice. Now what I'm going to do is show you the Flatpak directory. So if I come into var app org.mozilla.firefox, and I think is it config? Yeah, okay. So what you'll see here is in var app org.mozilla.firefox config, we also have a GTK-3.0 directory. And what I've done there is I've actually put that same settings file that I showed you in this directory, specifying, use Yaru blue dark, prefer dark theme. Even if I do that in the Flatpak version of Firefox with the Flatpak version of the Yaru theme installed, it still doesn't work. It still doesn't enable the dark theme. Okay, and now it's showing a dark theme here because I've actually got a CSS style sheet to enable dark mode on YouTube in this version. But if I come across to DuckDuckGo, DDG, see, okay, you can see here we got the white theme in DuckDuckGo, whereas in the Snap version we have the dark theme. Same deal with GitHub. If I come across to GitHub, white theme. So basically, from what I've found, is the Flatpak version of Firefox 100, the website appearance settings just don't work. Doesn't matter. I've tried them all, gone through dark, gone through all the different permutations, added configuration files, installed the themes, everything. Just can't get it to work at all. And the reason is because the desktop integration of Flatpak isn't as good as Snap files. So that's an issue with the Flatpak version. What I'm also going to do is show you an absolute deal breaker for me as far as the Flatpak version is installed. So what I'm going to do here is open the Snap version of Firefox, and what I'm going to do, come across to my desktop. What I've got here is a let me just open this. So what we've got here is a simple, very simple HTML page. Okay, HTML page, and in here we've got an image source.png, which is you can see here we've got example.html and image.png. Okay, so the web page is referencing that image.png file next to the HTML page. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open this page in the snap version of Firefox. And what you can see here is we've got the HTML page and we've got the image. And this is Paul from the Toon Review, show about Newcastle United. And that's Alan Maximin here. Massive chap, 6'5", built like a brick shit house. You can see the image is working fine, displaying the web page as you'd expect. What happens if I come across to the Flatpak version? Come across here, open the HTML page, bang, broken image. It's not displaying the image. And what you'll see here is if we look at the URL, we've got file 1 user 100 doc string of numbers example.html. Now if I copy this URL here, run, okay, so if I list this directory here, this one user, it's only showing this example.html page. So what happens with the Firefox Flatpak version is the picker allows you to pick an individual file and it opens it in this sort of sandbox container. So basically what's happening is it's opening the HTML page, but only the HTML page, not opening any assets that are included in the HTML page like the actual image. Okay, if I come across here and just select the image, you'll see the image opens absolutely fine. But again, if I open the HTML page, bang, broken. So what seems to happen is that when you open a web page locally with the Flatpak version, is it only opens the single file and not any of the assets. So basically, you use Firefox for local web development, to knock up a simple web page, test stuff out. The Flatpak version is just basically broken. There is an option in Flatpak to allow certain file paths, allow desktop or something. I don't know if that would fix the issue, which would allow you to, open up a web page and actually show the image in it as well. But for me, this is an absolute deal breaker for the Flatpak version. It just basically means you can't do any web development. As you can see the difference between the URL here, file run user I'll come across to the snap version. What you'll see is we have the proper URL file, username, desktop, example.html, and it works absolutely perfectly. So that's 2 strikes against Flatpak. 1, the dark theme doesn't work. Secondly, it breaks local websites. The third killer issue is magnet links. Magnet links, whatever, I just can't get them to work in the Flatpak version of Firefox. What I use is transmission, a BitTorrent daemon, and I view, the web UI in the browser. And what I do is I've actually got a script. If I come across to the settings, should show it in the settings down here. Magnet links. Yeah, magnet. Okay. What we've got here is magnet. Use system default. Use system handler default. And what I've got is a come across to local share applications transmission desktop. What I've got here is a desktop entry file that launches a script in user local bin called magnet add. And what this does is basically whenever I click a magnet link, it runs this script and sends the BitTorrent link to transmission, to the transmission daemon. But it doesn't work at all in the Flatpak version of Firefox. It may just be a case that this is an issue with the transmission daemon, and if you're running a GUI application, something like qBitTorrent, the magnet links might work with a desktop application, but I just can't get magnet links to work with the Flatpak version of Firefox and the transmission daemon. So that's 3 strikes against Flatpak. 1, we got no dark mode by default. 2, it totally breaks local websites. And 3, it basically, you can't get it to work with magnet links, because you can sort of allow a particular file path, expose a particular file path with Flatpak to the location of that script. I've done that and it still won't work, because it seems like the Flatpak sandbox prohibits sort of like system calls or something, so it can't, although you can give it the path to the script then can't run to send the magnet link to transmission. So that's why I've switched back to the Snap version of Firefox. There is a way to actually install the Deb version, Ubuntu.uk, I think it is. Okay, here we go. OMG Ubuntu.co.uk. How to replace Firefox Snap with Deb version. So what we've got down here is how to install Firefox via apps not using Snap. So if you run sudo apt install Firefox, it's going to install the Snap version in Ubuntu 22.04. And what this basically recommends is running sudo snap remove Firefox and then adding a Mozilla PPA. And then what you have to do is create this configuration file. You've got to pipe this stuff into this configuration file, which will actually stop it from automatically using the Snap version of Firefox. So there is a way to actually use a PPA to install the Deb version of Firefox, but the reason why I didn't do that is because I don't really like using PPAs, because the issue is what they do is they add newer libraries to your system, and that can then interfere with you trying to install other stuff, so you can get a mismatch between things using PPAs. I think there was also a thing here somewhere. Yeah, basically what you can also remove the Snap version and then just go and download the latest release from Firefox. But I think what you got to do then is every time there's a new release, you've got to go and manually download it and install a new version. So there is a way to install the Deb version and not a Snap if you're really a Snap hater. And yep, it does take a lot longer to open up. Can take like about 20 or 30 seconds on older hardware to open up the Snap. But using the Flatpak version for me is out the question now with the bugs that they've got. It's just the deal breaker, really. Magnet links, it was just an absolute pain in the Flatpak version to right click on the link, copy it, go into the terminal, magnet add, paste in the link, as opposed to just being able to click magnet links and have them sent to transmission. So that's why I'd recommend using the Snap version over the Flatpak version, because the desktop integration with the Flatpak version isn't there, and the sandbox just causes too many problems, especially with viewing local files. So that's the declaration. Okay, let me just check the other thing. Does this also show the... Yeah, so the Flatpak version does also show the theme here, but you can see I think the difference is the window is much smaller here. The file manager is much smaller in the Flatpak version. So let me just come across to the Snap version again and just double check that. If I do open, no, it's the same size, my bad. For some reason I thought it was sort of bigger in the Snap version. Let me go back to the Flatpak version. Okay, so this was the Flatpak version. Again, going through, changing the theme. You know, I can change this to dark. Come to settings. You know, set that to dark. Of course, here refresh. Nothing. Nada. No dice. System theme. Refresh. No, nothing. Firefox theme. Whatever you do, doesn't make any difference. It just doesn't work in the Flatpak version. And it's just something that's really, really bugged me for ages, is going to Google and, you know, having to click this and then go to dark theme and you know, having to do that for all different sites like YouTube, DuckDuckGo. Real pain to have to do it manually. So again, I'll open up the Firefox Snap version here. Oh, I've already got it open. So again, search with Google. Say, comes up white first of all. I'm not sure if that's an issue with maybe. I don't think it's an issue. I've got everything allowed with uBlock Origin. Basically, you just need to refresh once, and then it'll switch to the dark theme. Then deal with YouTube. You don't actually need to refresh with YouTube. It kicks straight in. Okay. I mean, how much nicer is that? So, tune review. That's the tune review. You can see lovely dark theme here. Again, on Google, much nicer to look at. Come across to news. Put it on like search Linux. To show you what it looks like, and all different tabs. So these are all different tabs. You've got images, video, and it's just much nicer and easier on the eye. And again, the other site that has an automatic dark mode is DuckDuckGo, DDG. So DDG, I'll just select DuckDuckGo here. See, we've got the automatic dark theme. And again, finally, another one that supports automatic dark mode is GitHub. Five. And as you can see, the reason for these colors is the Firefox multi-containers that I'm using. You can see this is automatically open in the GitHub container, and I can come across to all my repositories and my dot files. So this is where I keep all my dot files that I've been showing you. All this. This is my. This is Cerberus. This is where I basically keep all my notes. So this goes back about 10 years. This is like 10 years of tech tips. As you can see, hundreds and hundreds of things and lots of different stuff. And these are all in org files. So if I just come across like Firefox here, see these are all sort of, most of these are sort of written in org mode. Get Flatpak. So you can see really nice, nicely rendered. Let me just find one that's actually got a bit more stuff. FG is FMPEG. There we go. Okay. See, scene detection. Where's scene detection? So this is just showing you how all this is rendered in the dark mode on GitHub. absolutely gorgeous, much nicer than the white mode that we'd get with. So this is the same thing in Flatpak version with no dark mode, and I'm not sure where the if there's a toggle actually on the website that enables you to select dark mode here on GitHub. You can see this is the plain white version that we'd get with the Flatpak version, and here's the lovely sexy version we get with the snap version and the automatic dark mode. So it really makes a big difference, especially at night if you're looking at code. Much nicer. So that's all the settings that you need to go through. That's stuff that can break it. The location of all the config files. So it should be sort of relatively easy, but there are a few things that can break this, as I've said. So you may need to start with a fresh setup of Firefox if you have any issues. And what I would recommend is if you use uBlock Origin, you can export your settings from uBlock Origin. So I'm just going to show you that. So if I come across the uBlock Origin and click this little button here, it'll open the dashboard, scroll to the bottom and then go backup file. That's going to back up all your configuration for uBlock Origin. And then if you've got Firefox installed with a Flatpak and you want to switch to a dev version or the snap version to enable the nice dark mode, first of all, back up your settings for uBlock Origin, then install uBlock Origin on the snap version, and then just do restore from file, and it will restore all your settings for uBlock Origin. The other extensions that I use, Don't Track Me Google, and what that does is that that removes the redirect link from all the Google search results. So as you can see here, as I'm mousing over here, if you look at the bottom left of the screen, you'll see it gives the proper link, wikipedia.org, wiki Linux, whereas normally by default it will have like a redirect URL. So this is good because it will just give you the actual links without the redirect. Fortunately, the Firefox multi-containers doesn't have an option to export the settings. So the only one I can export the settings for is uBlock Origin. But again, Firefox multi-containers are really useful. As I showed you, you can create different containers for sites, set the color and everything, set it to only open particular URLs in the container. So you can see here, GitHub, YouTube, and DuckDuckGo. So that's how you can compartmentalize stuff, keep all the settings and cookies and stuff in separate containers. And again, this doesn't impact the dark mode at all. So it's safe to use without sort of breaking any of the settings or anything like that. So that's basically the gist of how you can get this to work and what sites support automatic dark mode. What you can do to actually break it. So again, final time, the one thing I found that actually breaks this was under privacy and security. History, Firefox will remember history. I mean, I've got this to set to delete cookies and site data when Firefox is closed. So it's going to delete everything, but actually changing this from Firefox will remember history to something else seems to be something that actually breaks the dark mode, because obviously what's happening is Firefox is advertising it's got dark mode, the website then enables dark mode, and you want Firefox to remember that setting, and if you change it, it just seems to break stuff. And what I found was when I changed this, it broke it, and I just couldn't get the dark mode working at all again without deleting the .mozilla directory. So that's one thing that will break it. The other thing that I found was actually adding a user.js file or custom style sheets. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but you know, it's just as I was going through changing something, changing things, and it broke. That was one of the things I did, as well as this. So once you got it set up, if you want to change anything, what I'd recommend doing is actually backing up the .mozilla directory before you make any changes, so that if you bugger things up, you can just restore the .mozilla directory that had everything working in it. So that's the dark mode again. All you need to do, come to the general settings, manage themes, set it to system theme auto, set it to Firefox theme. Make sure to set your GTK -3.0 settings.ini file. So .config GTK3 settings.ini. I'm setting it to Yaru Blue Dark for the icon theme, and GTK application -prefer -dark -theme equals true. That's the secret source that gets it all working. That's how we get the dark theme enabled. And again, don't use gnome tweaks. That's another thing that buggers things up. It sets stuff maybe like you can use dconf editor and have a look at how things are sort of set in GTK. And I think what the gnome tweaks does is it adds some setting somewhere or other hidden away that actually interferes with stuff. So don't use gnome tweaks, and also don't use the gnome settings application, because it only works within gnome to set the accent color. So this is how we set the theme, and that's all we need to do to get the dark mode working. And it's much nicer, much easier on the eyes, but there are a few sort of caveats to get it working. It doesn't work the Flatpak version. I haven't tried this with the Deb version, but I know it works with the Snap version. So I'm guessing it will work with the regular Deb version if you're not on Ubuntu. Just make sure to go through and set everything, and also come across the files again. We've got the Firefox temp directory here, and again, this is how we can exclude that from the view. So ls-l. I'm still not showing it. If I run lsal, you'll see that it shows the firefox.temp directory, and that's how we hide the Firefox temp directory from the list command. And again, this will also work outside of the downloads directory, and also how we can exclude the Firefox temp directory from ZSH completion. So imagine I had a load of videos in here and I was just pressing tab to play through them. You can see it's not listing, when I press tab, it's not listing the Firefox temp directory to play it. It was something that really, really bugs me. And then finally, we also have it excluded from Emacs diode as well, and I can toggle that back on and off like that. Show hidden files, come in there. And again, the other issue is if you're doing a find file like this, downloads, it will show up, but as soon as you go into the directory, it will be hidden. So hopefully that's made things a bit more bearable using the Snap version, and why you might want to use it over the Flatpak, because I said three major issues with the Flatpak. no automatic dark mode. Magnet links don't work. So if you like torrents, Flatpak version is awful. And finally, it breaks local sites. So again, as I showed you in the Flatpak version, it just opens the HTML page, but not the actual image that was inserted in the HTML page. So that's why, in my opinion, the Snap version of Firefox is better than the Flatpak version, because the system integration is far superior. We've got the dark mode, the magnet links work perfectly, and we don't get that issue with broken local websites. So that's a wrap up of switching to the dark side, as it were, and making things a bit more bearable at night. So hopefully that's helped, and you know, just go through, change your settings, have a play around, and hopefully you'll be able to get dark mode working. I have tried this on tried enabling the dark mode on the Mac in a VM, but I just couldn't get it to work. I'm not sure if that's just because I'm running it in a VM or something, and I haven't got a Windows system set up to actually try it on Windows. But I imagine it would work on Windows. Usually things do work on sort of Windows, but so far as I could see, I couldn't get it to work on the Mac. But let me know if you've had any success getting the dark mode to work on the Mac. And that's all for now. So I'll put links to everything under the video, and hope that helps, and you know, points out a few little things that can cause this to break, how you can fix it. I'm going to say the only way I know how to fix it is by actually, if you break it, is actually, unfortunately, by deleting the Mozilla directory and creating a new profile, which is a bit of a pain. So just be warned, if you get it working, you play around with something, get it, and you break it. Sometimes whatever you do inside Firefox, you can't get it to re-enable, and it just seems that there's some hidden file in the .mozilla directory that controls the theme settings that I can't find in the UI. So that's all for now, and hope that helps and makes things a bit more bearable at night looking at YouTube and Google. So that's all for now. I'll put links to everything under the video on how to hide the Firefox temp directory with the list command, with ZSH autocompletions, and also within Emacs. But unfortunately, I haven't figured out a way to actually hide it from within GTK applications, GNOME applications, GUI applications. I haven't figured out a way to actually hide this Firefox temp directory from GUI applications. So if you know a way to do that on Linux, leave a comment. There is a command on the Mac and on Unix called change flags, which has a hidden option which allows you to hide particular folders. There is a chatter command and other commands on Linux, but I don't think they've got the option to actually hide directories from GUI applications. But if you know a way to hide the Firefox temp directory in GUI applications, please leave a comment, and that might help people out. So that's all for now.